I have felt like Seth Rollins has been low-key the best thing on Raw.
That is not an interview with Dwayne Johnson, the man. You were talking and listening to The Rock.
How crazy would it be? John Cena, what if he actually leaves with the WWE Championship?
That's an idea I really had not thought of.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Lariat Lounge. This is the home of smart takes, hard hits, real talk. I'm your host, Everson, and I've got my friend with me today, guest hosting on a little special appearance of the Lariat Lounge, Andrew Skeens. What's up, brother?
What's up, man? Happy to be here. Can't wait to talk about some wrestling with you. It's something we both love, and I think it'll be a good convo.
It will be fun. Listen, I'm happy to have you here. We were talking a little bit before we started recording, and I'm happy to have somebody else here because I talk about this stuff in a room by myself, and that's fine. I have no problem just going on and on and on about these things. But I know that there's a community of us who all gathered at WrestleMania 40, and we thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. And I felt like communing with some of you guys in another format would be really fun. And we're really picking up with WWE right now in what I oftentimes feel is one of the best storytelling periods that the company has ever been.
Yeah, it's really a great time to be a fan. I know normally a lot of people are used to going into maybe a little lull into Backlash and the post-Mania blues, but I think we've got some great stuff going on. Can't wait to talk about it with you.
Well, I think so too, man. It's like they haven't, to me, I don't feel like WWE has been missing too many beats. And some of the things I feel like they have been missing, to me, honestly, brother, they're not really that big of a deal. Like, I get it. I get that The Rock not being at Mania definitely crippled some of the, breadcrumbs that they have been putting that. Well, actually, they're bigger than breadcrumbs because there was a whole angle with, sell me your soul, Cody, that kind of got sidelined. Did you see that interview that The Rock did with Pat McAfee?
I did go and watch that.
Okay, so what did you think about The Rock's position as far as what his thoughts were on the angle, what his stance was after the kind of angle had been played? What do you think about that?
So I think an important thing that you said there, and I think is getting lost for some people, is you asked me, what did I think of what The Rock said?
Yeah.
I think we've got to, and I think he's even hinted at this and maybe said it afterwards, like, you're not, that is not an interview with Dwayne Johnson, the man, the board member, the guy behind The Rock. You were talking and listening to The Rock. I think everything he said is in service of the story.
Sure.
Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm too much of an apologist sometimes, too predispositioned. That's a word to enjoy things and to think there's a greater plan here. But I really think that this has been more of a master stroke to kind of suck the life out of what would have been a moment that was overly cheered and overly adored and celebrated for what they're trying to make their top bad guy, John Cena.
Sure.
I think we've talked a little bit, and I've talked to other people that really disliked how Mania finished and how The Rock didn't get involved and Travis Scott's making his 2-minute entrance. But I think it worked well to serve what they wanted to do, which I think, at least in terms of what we've seen and what the people involved, the characters involved, not the people, the characters involved have told us, in that John Cena wanted to ruin wrestling. He wanted to suck the life out of John Cena becoming the most decorated world champion of all time.
Yeah.
They found a way to do it. I think it was mastered. Again, I'm open to the idea that maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but I really think that's what we got here. And I think the interview with The Rock just kept going in that direction. again, maybe I'm naive, maybe the egos got involved, but I have to think that the people involved behind these characters directing this story know enough about what they're doing that they're not shocked by reactions things get. When you get John Cena, Triple H, Cody Rhodes, The Rock, when you get those guys in a room, I think they know how to tell a story and how a crowd's going to react to things. So I think we got an interview with The Rock that furthered the story.
Now, see that right there, the part that you said about, I think that these people who are writing this story have it, and I'm paraphrasing here, have it well enough in hand to tell the story that they're trying to tell. That to me, man, is where I typically tend to land with WWE right now. I genuinely feel like if you have been a fan of WWE for the last 4 years through the Bloodline story arc, right? WWE should have earned a bit of trust equity with you to where, listen, every beat of the story you may not understand right now. Some of the things may have been some pivots or some shifts, right? But let's not fall into this space where just because we don't understand something that's happening on the screen right now or why it's happening, that somehow WWE have dropped the ball or somehow they've jumped the shark. Like, I get that some people think that the story may not be for them, right? And that's perfectly fine. That doesn't mean that the story is not good. Like, I think anyone who's looking at how WWE has told this story of how John Cena is breaking up with the WWE universe because of 20 plus years of mistreatment, despite everything he's done for the industry. And now in a very super villain-esque way, seeks to destroy professional wrestling and everything that the fans hold near and dear to their hearts, right? That to me is, one, it's a very unique stance for a villain in wrestling to take, because you have to have had the career that John Cena had in order to make a character like that come to life, right? So the story arc that he's been on his entire career is the story arc that he's been on his entire career is the reason why this character even comes to life in the first place, right? But then the ticking time clock of how many dates he has left before he pulls a CM Punk, essentially leaving the company, taking the title with him, right? And allowing the WWE universe and all of us fans to rebuild the company in our own image, but take none of the lineage, none of the history with it, because the last real champion is leaving. That is a very unique position, is a very unique character beat that we've never seen before. And I sometimes feel, Skeen, that you have wrestling fans who really want something, or they claim to want something that they don't actually want.
Absolutely. You hit on that, I think, in your post-Mania, and the claim to want the long-term storytelling, to want unpredictable stuff, but then when something happens that they didn't pre-book in their head, right, or didn't go exactly the way they thought, when there is kind of a turn or something unexpected, then there's uproar and rabble-rousing online. So I resonated with that when I heard you say that on your post-Mania show.
Yeah, man, it blew my mind, right? It blew my mind. It also blew my mind how many people were really despondent about the Seth Rollins heel turn angle, right? And not just Seth Rollins heel turn, but the implications of what it means to have Paul Heyman do what he did to CM Punk, what he then followed that up with to Roman Reigns, right? And the conversation that was happening after Mania about how could you do this to your tribal chief, blah, blah, blah. And how could you do this to your best friend? This confusion sometimes between like the reality of the story that you're being told versus the understanding that this isn't real. There are some people who get that confused sometimes, I think.
I think, fortunately for some, unfortunately for others, we're entering an era where some of the storytelling is going to be through the lens of the realness and the real people. I don't think I said that quite eloquently enough, but they're going to start melding more real life into the story, and in a way to, I think Triple H has a good finger on the pulse to know, look, we've got fans, we've got this certain segment, a larger segment now than ever before, that kind of knows or thinks they know what we're doing, how things work. How can we use that to our advantage as storytellers? How can we leverage that? You've got that, I forget the name of the show, but they're coming out with the Netflix show.
Oh, Unreal. Is it Unreal?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure that's going to pull back the curtain some. I really don't think they're going to show us, or we're going to get anything they don't want us to.
Oh, it's all going to be curated.
Yes. And things like that are going to be used to their advantage. And to further back to that point, I think a couple months ago, Road Dogg did an interview. I believe it was with Chris Van Vliet. And great show. Love talking to Road Dogg, but he addressed this exact point that you may think you know as a fan, but we've only told you what we.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to become more and more. And initially here, we're in this period where people that think they know exactly what's going to happen, that think they have, a bead on the story, and it goes the other way. It's almost like, some people are like, well, how could they do this? I knew exactly this was going to happen, rather than, sitting back, buckling the seatbelt up and enjoying the ride.
Yes.
So I think we're in a transition period where some of the stuff we think we know, or we think we're used to, is going to get used against us.
I don't disagree. And I think if you want to enjoy professional wrestling in this like 4D chess era that they're about to start stepping into, with all of the different avenues to which they tell their stories, you got to be a fan of being worked, man. Like, that is essentially what we all show up to do. I love it. Like, work me. I watched the Chris Van Vliet interview with Bailey that she did right before Mania with him. And
yeah.
I know she had that knee injury, and that knee injury was probably a little bit worse than, a lot of people have let on, including her, with regards to, the severity of it. But absolutely work me into believing, to a certain extent, right, that the Chris Van Vliet interview is more reality than fiction. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do. And I'm at the point where, like, there was a time where, I thought I wanted to know all the stuff, but that robs you of the magic and the ride a little bit. So, like you were saying, I mean, work. Yeah. I'm here to get worked. I'm here to be a fan. I'm here to enjoy the ride. I don't necessarily care to actually know how much things like the Bailey quote unquote injury, maybe not quote injury,
right,
was work, but it's fun to have those threads there.
It is. And if you're like me, you appreciate the people behind the characters, right? I love watching the interviews, just like I love watching the Hall of Fame, because I have a deep appreciation for the character work and the people who portray these characters. And so seeing more of these people is always interesting to me. But I am absolutely with you, Skeens. Like, I have been unsubscribing from a lot of the wrestling outlets that I used to subscribe to on YouTube and stuff like that. One, because I don't really care so much, like you said, about hearing all of the backstage behind the scenes stuff that kind of take away from the experience of wrestling. But also, I have been getting a bit tired of being inundated with a lot of the cynical nature that comes with people who spend their entire life covering the world of professional wrestling. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. There's a point where if you make it a job, maybe you suck some of the enjoyment about it. But yeah, it's the most fun for me when maybe I can unplug from the IWC for a week and just enjoy the shows I watch. And you try not to get influenced, but hey, you read 1,000 times, this sucked, here's why. Maybe you start to believe that, even if you personally enjoyed it. So I think a lot of more people are getting that way, and it's still a minority of the fan base that exists kind of, everything that happens backstage, reading all that stuff online.
Yeah.
But I think, we're all collectively reaching a point maybe that, not all of us, but some of us are going, man, I want to step back from this. I just want to enjoy this again. I don't want to know all this stuff. I don't want you to pull back the curtain on Oz too much. I don't want to insanely go into depth about, why this didn't work and why this is a bad story. Here's what they should have done. Instead, I'm just here to watch it. I'm just here to enjoy it. This is something I like. Don't ruin this for me. Don't let yourself ruin it for you, essentially.
1,000%. And that's why I started this podcast, because I wanted a space where I could communicate with the other people that are out there who just love pro wrestling. You know what I mean? Just love to consume the product. They love the stories. They love to be entertained. And they're not so jaded by all of the content that they're consuming that they can't enjoy it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, for instance,
100%.
Right now, I am so excited to see what this combination of Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman, and Braun Breaker become. I have felt like Seth Rollins has been low-key the best thing on Raw in a long time. He's been that way for a while, right? And he was certainly the unsung hero of WrestleMania 40's main event. And I have been in love with the undercurrent story that has been being weaved over the years, right? Of how Roman and Seth keep coming back together, right? Like they can't separate too far from each other. And Roman has never, ever gotten over that betrayal. Not for real. And Roman has been on a character arc that seems to be defined by that type of betrayal. Betrayal from Seth, betrayal from the fans who just rejected him forever, right? And his desire to gain the acknowledgement that he felt he deserved by whatever means that took, right? So if that turned into him becoming the head of the table, forcing his family to acknowledge him, forcing us fans to acknowledge him, forcing the world and records to acknowledge him by holding the title as long as he did, right? It's a wounded man trying to be accepted in a way that he felt he never has, right? And Seth has always been the other side of that coin, right? Where there seems to be a person here who genuinely has a love and desire for the business, and whether he believes it himself at some point or not, always sees himself as the person who can lead something, whether it's the Shield or whether it's that Authority faction that he was with J&J Security, or whether it is being the Monday Night Messiah, you know what I mean? Being the spiritual leader of Monday Night Raw, to the stance that he's in now, where we really don't know what this faction is, but he definitely felt like, yo, I'm trying to defend the company and its integrity from two interlopers, right? One who left the company and took every chance that he could take to destroy this place. Now he's back and he tends to take more. He stands to try and take more. And then you've got this other despot over here who, if the company is remolded in his image, right? Are we ever going to see a working champion? And the path that he has taken seems to be one who he's a man who envisions himself as being left with no other options but to take up the helm himself again, right? And lead the company out of what seems to have been like a tyrannical direction. And he's aligned himself with people who he feels can help him to accomplish that in Paul Heyman and his ability to navigate within the company. And with Braun Breaker, who, like it or not, I like it, but this guy is literally the future. And there were a lot of people who I saw online, and believe me, I try not to dig too deep into this stuff, but I find myself there all the time, that absolutely despised the ending of WrestleMania 41 Night 1, right? They didn't like the heel turn. They did not like what Heyman had done to their tribal chief. And now they are totally intrigued by this new faction, right? And the story that it's building. And it always leads me back to this place where it's like, I really wish that if you really enjoyed this product, that you would give it a little bit of time to cook, give it a little bit of time to breathe, because I guarantee you they're not making this stuff up on the fly.
Everything you just said about Seth and the story and where we're going, how we got there, I'm in lockstep with you. Going back to what you said about, enjoying the people behind these characters for a second, I'm not sure anyone deserves to have this spot more right now than Seth, for exactly what you said, being the guy, being the unsung hero for so long. It's nice to see him kind of step up and maybe get that number one spot for a little bit.
Yeah.
But what I will say, and this just goes back to, let's really enjoy what we get in wrestling as, as you want to call it a form of entertainment, art form, any of that. Stories like, Seth, CM Punk, Roman, the things we have developing and intertwining is why this is such a great form of entertainment, because it's like you've got all these movies happening that you can watch at the same time.
Yes.
Where everyone gets to be the main character of their own story. Maybe in another form of entertainment, you're watching the Bloodline movie.
Right.
And, it starts with Roman coming out when he becomes the tribal chief, and then we get all the way to kind of what just ended, and the movie ends. But that's not what we get in wrestling. Not only does the movie with the Roman character keep going, but we got to see movies with all those other side characters.
Yes.
Like, in just the Bloodline movie, we don't get to go off and see what Jay does.
Right.
We don't get to see, here's what that Seth character does.
Right.
And what he was doing in the meantime. But we get that. And I think that's kind of where this era shines, is weaving things in and out of different stories, noting the things that happened in the past, running through lines like you hit on, Roman's betrayal. But it even goes back to, I think, I'm not sure when it was, but Cody cut the promo that he was destined to end up alone once everyone leaves him.
Yeah.
And at that point, the tribal chief character laughs it off, and that's never going to happen. But here we are. And that came to fruition. And now we get to see that story play out. But it's just, I didn't see as much of the negative discourse. And you went over it before, and I'm not going to repeat everything you said on previous episodes, but it makes sense. The story works. I'm really excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to, like kind of I said, the Bloodline movie may have ended, but now we getting this new story with Seth, and Roman's going to move on to another story. And that's the beauty of the WWE and no off season. We don't have to wait for the next movie to come out. It's going to happen right now in front of our eyes.
Very true.
I love the pairing. I think it makes sense with Heyman for the things you said before about Seth's the guy that didn't lie to him, and Punk put him in a bad spot, and Roman put him in a bad spot, and Paul Heyman's always going to be the guy to get out of it and find his way to something maybe bigger and better.
Right.
So
no, I'd agree. I agree, man. And Heyman has subtly positioned himself, right, as the person that you believe on the face is the most slimy, greasy person you've ever met. Right. And in a lot of ways, the character is, right. But he's also positioned himself as a person who prides himself on integrity and honoring his word. You know what I mean? And he honored his word with the tribal chief character. He honored his word with his best friend. And both of these people have devalued him and misused him. And he understands his own worth, and that, yes, there is this aspect of Heyman as well, who is absolutely going to survive, right? And latch himself on to the next big thing. You know what I mean? So this story to me has so many layers and so many dimensions to it. I repeat what you said earlier, that this is the cool part of living in this era of wrestling, particularly with social media, with all of the different avenues for subtle aspects of storytelling to weave themselves into this main through line of Monday Night Raw or Friday Night Smackdown that we watch each week. It genuinely does pay dividends to consume this content that WWE is affiliated with, right? I'm sure there are so many people who did not see, for instance, this surprising out of nowhere spectacular nature of Karrion Kross that has just showed up, right? But watching wrestling for as long as we have, and particularly recent, we've seen these little breadcrumbs of Karrion Kross being in the background of all of these stories, right? And weaving these little seeds of dissent and deceit and, you know what I'm saying, in different people's stories. And yes, maybe that was an effort to, utilize the amount of airtime that you got. But when you use it well, you get this really intricate story where you have a character who has a lot of charisma. He carries himself really well on the screen, and he's really good at his job, right? And he can portray it in a way to where when he gets the opportunity to strike that iron, he does. I don't know whose interview that was that he did post Mania. Who's that dude? You know that guy that he did interview with? That he jumped in and did like that shoot work interview?
I forget who it was because I didn't. I just saw a clip of it on social media and just saw him talking. I have no idea who he was talking to.
I tell you what, though, that interview was fire. That interview was so good.
It was awesome. It really was. And Cross is who I was going to go to. It's funny you brought that up because that's who I was going to bring it to as well. I mean, that's another guy that's like, look, he's a character that, like you said, has been weaved kind of in and out of a bunch of different stories, and you get to not only see him pop up in other stories, but now you get his story alone possibly. And he's had his own story alone, but now he gets his feature. Hopefully, yeah. But he's always been good. I've enjoyed, kind of the things he's done, kind of the almost, people want to compare it to the Sean O'Hare stuff, but don't know if that's completely the same thing. But I've liked it. I've liked, he's kind of this devil and angel on everyone's shoulder, just popping up sometimes, and now hopefully we get to see all that come to fruition and go on to his own story. And I'm excited to see where it goes. And I think he's going to get a chance to shine here.
I think he is too. And it's funny you brought up that Sean O'Hare thing, because I had not thought about that since it aired many moons ago. But now I think about it, you're right. I can see how some people have maybe tried to draw some inference between those two things. It's interesting because I feel like, and listen, I could be completely wrong about this, but just based on how valuable on-air time is, right, to a character, or let me rephrase, how important it is for a superstar to get their character over is the amount of airtime they got, right? The more time you get in front of fans, the more people get to see you, the more they can connect with your character and play the role that is assigned to all of us when we show up at a show. If you're a heel, we boo. If you're a face, we cheer. And you get to engender that into people. But you can't do that if you don't have airtime. So to see how little airtime Killer Kross, which I'm calling him Killer Kross from now on because I hate Karrion, but the amount of airtime that Killer Kross has gotten over the last few years that he's been in and out of, being released from the company and brought back, it never appeared to me like WWE at the time was investing enough energy into Killer Cross himself to be very hands-on in whatever it was that he was trying to develop in the amount of airtime that he had, right? I say all that because Killer Cross as a character has been absolutely, in my opinion, developed on the back of the performer that portrays that character. And what he's been able to do with his character work and the small amount of screen time that he has and the way that the fans have gotten behind him. Listen, if I'm shown in the future that this was all orchestrated by WWE the whole time, I'm going to have to take my hat off to them, because you certainly pulled the wool over my eyes and you have been long playing this in a way that I didn't know you were capable of. But otherwise, it is so nice to see how the fans resonated with him in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and how much they really were pulling for this guy simply based on his own character work, his acumen in the ring, and what the fans have resonated with based on, said work. So, seeing him get his due right now, I'm genuinely hoping that he gets a prominent spotlight to really kind of show what he's able to do, and that, whatever it is that he's got going on right now, that the writer's room links up with him. And, if he's been in charge of this, allow him to continue to steer the ship and, give him what he needs to write his character in a well-rounded story that obviously fits into the overarching theme of what, WWE appears to be trying to, to do right now, which seems like this idea of the heart and soul of the company, whether it's Seth and his faction trying to save the heart and soul of the company, to John Cena and Cody's feud about the soul of the company, to even what Killer Cross was doing with AJ. Right? Which is dude, you're the best of us. You represent us. And this guy from the outside does not represent us at all. You cannot let him upstage you and destroy what we are.
That's I didn't think about that as a through line, kind of the heart and soul of the company and what it is. And but you make a good point. And even, weaves back to Seth and Punk, and, Punk's not one of us anymore, but that's a good call. And I think that goes back again to, saying some of that stuff gets, we're blurring those lines again and bringing a little bit of the reality of the people behind the performers into it, but still in the context of serving the story. And I think you're seeing more of that, but definitely excited to see what I think will be a bigger platform and a little more time and a little more, effort put into developing this story that Cross has, as you said, seemingly been developing on his own. I definitely don't think it was meant to be a big thing at first, but that's the great thing about wrestling, is that things that started small and come from just a performer really maximizing their time and creating something themselves, then we can make a whole story out of that.
Yeah.
And that's why things work great. And you saw that with something that just ended, and maybe I'll segue it to us is, we saw Chelsea Green finally lose her title, but I think that's a perfect example of, not to say that the ceiling of the Cross stuff is a U.S. title, but there's someone who was given 30 seconds to a minute to 90 seconds a week to develop this character on TV that people connected with. And she did such a good job, it became impossible for them to, in any sort of a smart business environment, to not present her more and more, just because people gravitated towards it so much. And I was not a huge Chelsea Green fan, but I've become maybe the biggest, because she is that person that went out there and maximized everything she had and just did it completely selflessly, not afraid to lose every match, just going to show up and be as entertaining as she can for the time she's given. And those are the wrestlers I want.
I don't disagree. And I can't say that I have always been a Chelsea Green fan. And I say that because I know that I was not following her a whole lot during her first WWE run. And I didn't follow her a lot when she left WWE. But when she came back, I, like you, always felt like she uses the time that she has very wisely. And she maximizes every second of airtime she's got, and she became undeniable. It's amazing to live in these times in WWE. And I know that there's some people out here who think that, oh man, dude, this guy is always glazing WWE. It's not what I mean when I say things like it's amazing to live in these times. I remember living through those dark days of WWE, right? Where like the storylines kind of sucked. We always got the same people forced down our throats over and over again, right? It took a Daniel Bryan-esque movement to really get the guy in the chair, right, to make any type of movements. And that didn't happen very often, right? And people like Killer Cross, like Chelsea Green. There's a reason why we talk about how they worked here before and then they got fired and came back, because you benched them, you put them on the sidelines, and you never do anything with them. And granted, these people get healthy checks, right? These people probably get paid very well for simply being on the roster. I felt like I've heard that somewhere before. You know, did you get paid just for being a part of the roster? There are people who probably are doing very well off that right now. I can imagine that someone like Shinsuke at this point in his career, right, is not super duper concerned about getting TV time every week, but those checks clear and he's doing all right. And listen, if that's where you are in your career, where you've done all the things that you want to do and you are happy being a part of the company and playing your role as needed, that's great. We need people like that, you know, in professional wrestling, to be around, to give back to younger generations, to be there to support the stories that the company is putting forward, right? And I respect that. But then you have people like a Killer Cross, like a Chelsea Green, who they have a real passion for professional wrestling. And it's amazing to see them have the opportunity to work in a WWE that values people like that and values the talent that they have. There just isn't enough time on every program to get everyone on. But geez, man, the fact that WWE now has Raw, SmackDown, NXT, TNA, they just got AAA. I mean, there's so many avenues right now for WWE to not only platform professional wrestling in a lot of different markets and avenues, but the crossover ability that they have been showing us with main roster to NXT, NXT to main roster, NXT to TNA now. And I can only imagine, dude, with AAA, we are a few steps away from Lucha Underground.
And we can only dream.
Oh, dude, I caught Lucha Underground so late. I caught Lucha so late.
I want to say I dipped out before the end because I remember it just became so hard for me to find and watch. So I think I didn't watch the final season.
Okay.
But I heard about it after the first couple had aired and then went back and watched at least the seasons 1 through 3. I was there watching every week, and what a time. What a time.
And I missed it. I missed all of that. I caught it way on the tail end. And when I saw the production value, right, of AAA, I'm not AAA, of Lucha Underground, I was like, yo, where has this been all my life? And then I couldn't find it anywhere. So I don't think I've actually seen a full season all the way through. But I absolutely hope that Netflix and this relationship with WWE opens the door for WWE to really kind of venture into some areas that they have not been able to do before and give us some different programming that will capture a whole different audience. Because I never got to experience Lucha firsthand, but with AAA, not with AAA being under their, umbrella, with TNA, they've got so many avenues to branch off into so many really cool things. The sky's the limit for them, and I'm all here for it.
It's definitely, I mean, you couldn't have told someone a couple of years ago that this would be the landscape, but it is. And before we move on, wanted to touch back on, you brought up one of my all-time favorites, Shinsuke, and I will just say I'm very happy for that guy to just collect a check, be happy. My favorite thing that's ever happened for him is the 3 or 4 months, I think 3 years ago or so, where Vince put the IC title on Shinsuke and then just told him and Boogs to go off and kayak and surf and do Toyota commercials for like 3 months, and they'd show them on, and they were like half Toyota commercial, half wrestling vignette.
Yeah,
that was awesome. I love that for that guy. So I just have to bring that up.
No, dude, listen, Shinsuke has earned it, right? Shinsuke has earned it, and that's why I said what I said, right? That if that's the role that you want to play, well, let me say it like this. If that's not the role you want to play, right, it's probably really sucks to be in that position, right? There are probably people out there who genuinely have a passion for professional wrestling, and there's not enough room on weekly programming to get everyone on, right? And yes, I do feel like WWE is always going to have a top of the card problem with their championship title structure. The way they have their title structure to me is I think it's not advantageous for people to be able to make themselves stand out at different tiers of the roster. And I think they need to do some fixing of that. WWE does. So because of that, I don't think we get what we used to get maybe back in like the golden era of professional wrestling, where you could have characters who mattered, who had stories in and of themselves, however short or long they may be, that did not necessarily mean that they had to be in a title hunt, but because they were in a certain tier of the roster, they could always be within earshot of title contention, and the titles meant something. You know what I mean? Like I always liken it to the podium at the Olympics, right? Gold, silver, and bronze mean something. There is no fourth place. And so when you have the Universal Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship that are supposed to be on equal footing, but we all know they're not, right? That means that your hierarchy bumps the lowest ranking title off of the podium. And the US title is the lowest ranking one. It's supposed to be equal with the IC belt, but it's not. And until you rectify that problem, I think that anybody who gets roped into the US title picture currently, I don't know, man. I feel like they are almost like the designated hitter. Like they're the next up the bat. They're in, you know what I'm saying? They're in the batter's box. They're getting ready to go up. But that's all that the US title really signifies. And that's only if you're the guy, right? How quickly did LA Knight bubble up and got left on the back burner to fizzle out and then get usurped in popularity by the next thing that was bubbling up, which was Jacob Fatu. You put the US title on him, right? And now where does LA Knight go? He has not raised his stock in the fans' eyes, right, to be a credible IC champ, particularly because the IC title has had the opportunity to re-rank itself, right, as the proper bronze medal.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you, and just something that underscores that whole thing is when you said US title, I had to think for about 5 seconds. I'm like, who's got it? Oh yeah, Jacob Fatu has it. Because it's almost like, you're right, the title itself is nothing more than that spot that, like, hey, we really think you're good. We don't have anything else to give you. Here's this.
Yes.
But I think, maybe they're trying maybe they're trying to have these guys make the title, but it's tough when there's so many belts. And like you said, you've got belts on two shows that are supposed to be equal, but we really know they're not. If you watch both shows, you know when, and no disrespect to anyone, when John Cena and Cody, Gunther and Jay are fighting over the other. You sense the hierarchy there, and kind of the same stuff goes on. So you're right. They do have an issue that they need to fix. I think Jacob Fatu may help that. He may not. It just you've got a guy. I think they tried it with LA Knight. What they're essentially going to try with Fatu is that, hey, we got this super popular guy that right now is absolute must-see TV. I know Jacob Fatu is not now the way when LA Knight was really, like you said, bubbling up and really, when that music hit, you dropped everything. You were going to watch that segment.
Yes.
Same thing happens now when I hear that Jacob Fatu music. He is must-see TV. You got to see what he's going to do that week for completely different reasons than LA Knight, obviously. But, maybe we'll get there. Maybe we won't. You're right. They do have an issue with title presentation that I think they need to address.
I think, honestly, Skeen, I think that there's two ways you fix this. Well, let me address first what I think the problem is, right? For the U.S. title, I think the problem is the people who are vying for it. And that's not a knock on anyone, but, there is a certain caliber of wrestler back in the day who competed for the 24/7 title, right? And you knew that if you were competing in that 24/7 title scene, right, you weren't getting anywhere near any of the big titles. Like, those were just the people who were in that bracket. I feel like WWE has a pole position problem because of the two titles at the top, that they're billed as co-equal, but they're not. Right? If you merge the two, truly unify them, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, that to me sounds like a legit top title. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've got the World Heavyweight Championship and you've got the Universal Champion. Is it the Universal Championship anymore? I don't think it is.
No, we've got the World Heavyweight in the WWE.
Okay, so yeah, right. So merge them, right? The WWE World Heavyweight Championship. That's a top tier title name, right? That sounds prestigious. And it represents the company and everything that is the lineage of both, right? That then de facto makes second place the WWE Intercontinental Championship and third place the WWE United States Championship, right? That gives an innate ranking system that our brains already understand. Right? We already understand what first, second, and third place is. We already understand what gold, silver, and bronze mean, right? So if you enact that part of our brain that innately connects to that 3-tier pole system, you alleviate the problem in and of itself. That person at the bronze medal spot could have easily beat the silver medalist and the gold medalist on any given day, right? If the race was slightly different, you know what I'm saying? The person who came in second could have beat the person in first. And I feel like that's what the title picture should feel like, right? When you looked at somebody like Gunther, who had the IC title, nobody would have thought or said, yeah, Gunther's the IC champion. He would not stand a chance against Roman. They would have never said that because Gunther was a credible champion and he held that title and portrayed it in a way that made you feel like he was just as big of a threat as Roman could ever be, right? And they've done a good job of rehabilitating the IC championship by putting it on Gunther, right? And I just don't feel like the US title has gotten that kind of love, and no amount of open challenges is going to fix that. If you put that US title in prominent pole position as the bronze medal, right, then what that means is people like Jacob Fatu and people like LA Knight, right, people like Shinsuke, they are right there in contention in this 3-party, system that we've set up. But as long as they stay in that 4th place spot, I don't know, man. The co-equal titles don't make sense. I think they should just do away with it, unify those top 2 titles, give us a 3-title system, and make those titles matter again.
I think that's a good idea. I wish I had ideas to fix the issue, but someone that's much smarter than me is going to have to tackle the problem, because we've had it forever. And you're talking about podium positioning, and it's already so unequal. And again, no disrespect, but I got to use the champions that are here now.
Yeah.
Does anyone view Jey Uso as the guy, 1, equal to John Cena, 2, right behind John Cena? No, we all know there's your Seth Rollins, your CM Punk, your Roman Reigns, your Cody Rhodes, your all that. So it's just complicated. It's more complicated because the belt's on different shows that are supposed to be great, but we know certain guys aren't on certain shows. So it's a problem I don't have a solution to. I think they probably are doing their best. I don't know if it's solvable or if it's just a bug or a feature of wrestling that this is the way it's going to be. But I would like to see them make some strides, because again, I go back to, you said U.S. title. I had to think, who in the world has the U.S. title?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an issue.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. And the interesting thing is, for some reason, and I think the reason is because they're new, we don't have that problem with the women's division. Like I certainly am, looking into and following up with who the women's U.S. champion is and who the women's intercontinental champion is. And I know it's because it's new, but also the women's roster on the main stage is not as deep. You know what I mean? And so the titles kind of being positioned in certain places are really lending a spotlight to areas and people who don't really get that opportunity very often. Like, I was so happy for Zelina Vega taking the title off of Chelsea Green, and I absolutely thought Chelsea deserved it. But Zelina deserves it too. She deserves to get her spotlight as well. And it's weird because I do believe there's this connotation with the U.S. title that it's kind of like, it's kind of 4th place. But because the women have been so deprived of secondary titles for so long, it's good to see them with anything.
Yeah, and I think, back to your point, I think what we're seeing in the women's division right now with both those secondary titles are the 2 at least tried and true wrestling ways to elevate those titles.
Yeah.
On SmackDown, we just got out of having a character that is very, very popular, quote unquote, make the title with Chelsea Green, and then you give it in a big moment to Zelina, and we'll see what they're doing with her. But then on Raw, you're trying to elevate the title by having someone that you would previously think was above that title, in maybe your biggest star in the division, Becky Lynch, going after that title. So I think those are the ways you can do it. We'll see how it works out. But again, it's been a problem for so long for the company.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an easy way out of it. The last time I can remember that, we had a title structure that sort of worked and things on the different shows were sort of equal was like very early 2000s. But maybe I felt that way because I'm a 10, 12-year-old kid watching. And, I don't know any better. But we'll see what they do. I think they're on the right track. I think we've got good stuff going on for all the titles, actually. And it's the first time in a while, I think, that that's happening.
Now, I'm going to throw a wild idea out here that I was just thinking about, right? Because in my mind, the easy way to rectify this problem is to simply unify the top 2 titles. It automatically bumps the U.S. title up a notch. But let's say they don't do that, right? How crazy would it be if John Cena does not actually turn back face before he retires? What if he actually leaves with the WWE Championship and it leaves us with 1 title at the top?
That's an idea I really had not thought of. That's a way to get to the end that you were talking about wanting to get to. I don't know how that would play out. That would be one that I'd have to buckle up the seatbelt and strap in for. But if he does that not do exactly what he says in character it would do? That you wouldn't have a real world champ. And that's a way to get there. I'm not sure that way would serve the purpose. But again, there are people that are smarter than me with wrestling that need to make that decision.
Well, let me say this to you. So, do you watch the Marvel movies, Skeen?
I do. I have not caught some of the what I would call the intercontinental US tier ones that we've seen as of late. But yeah, I've got a good feeling.
Okay, so hear me out, right? What if John Cena is Thanos?
But he's got to lose eventually. Right?
No, I'm saying I hear you, but like hear me out. Avengers Infinity War. We thought the heroes were going to beat Thanos in the end. Thanos ends up getting all of the Infinity Stones, and even though Thor got him, he didn't go for the head. Thanos snaps. The heroes lose. That is one of the biggest movie swerves in recent history, right? And no one looks at that movie like, God, it was trash because the heroes didn't win. It's venerated because they lost, right? What if John Cena's ticking time clock is Thanos collecting the Infinity Stones? And we think that what's going to happen at the end is Cody comes back, right? There's some sort of coalition maybe, or maybe John Cena has a change of heart, or maybe something, right? And we turn John Cena back face before he retires. We get the title back, the end, right? But what if John Cena snaps? What if he snaps the Infinity Gauntlet and boom, he's gone? Like, let's picture WrestleMania 42, right? Let's say John Cena swerves us, right? And his run goes through to WrestleMania, right? Or let's say his last date comes up at the end of the year, right? His counter is down to one more date and this is his last show, right? Let's say it's against Cody. Cody comes out with a valiant effort, right? We've been building this for the entire year. Cody hasn't come back just yet, but now he'll be coming back, right? And he builds his story arc against Cena. The clock is ticking. The match comes to its conclusion. I don't know. Let's say Cody hits a Cody cutter, right? He's going for crossroads. Something happens. I don't know. Let's bring The Rock back because, hey, we haven't got the conclusion to The Rock won Cody's soul, right? Something happens. Cena wins. The crowd is shocked, stunned. Everybody's got that Undertaker guy face, right? When the streak was broke, and everybody's sitting there, stunned silence. And then you have Michael Cole or whoever's, calling it, and, they're playing it up like, I can't believe what just happened. Did he just win? And Cena walks out of the arena. The bug at the corner of the screen comes up, right? And everybody's thinking, okay, so something's going to happen, right? And then the pay-per-view goes off.
So I'm all in on that. Sorry, I had a little catch.
Yeah.
All in on that. That's a tough one to navigate. That's a great step. As long as you finally do get for your analogy, the end game here.
Sure.
As long as we do get that work. But that's a, for lack of a better term, that's a ballsy move.
Dude, what if Endgame was at 42?
I agree. And that's what I was going to say. They've shown the willingness to leave you unsatisfied, as we were talking, as we were thinking, in service of the bigger, longer picture.
Yeah.
So could they do it? Absolutely. If they do that, I'm now going to be upset that you've ruined it for me. but I mean, that's something to consider. That would be an all-time move, and have him actually, he'd have to sell that. He can't show up in 2 weeks. He has to be gone for a good bit longer than for however long CM Punk was gone, a month when they did this last time. He's got to be gone.
He'd have to be gone.
Yeah, he's got to sell it. Now, that'd be great. I'd be along for the ride. But, man, if you thought the internet unrest was bad after WrestleMania, that would be something.
But you know what?
It's a way to get there. You build up your other title. Maybe a while down the road, you have to get Cena out and beat him. I don't think there's a way to leave that thread just hang. Just have him snap and go away and rebuild the company. I think at the end of the day in wrestling, you do have to tie things up.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, maybe I'm naive and that's me thinking that's the way it's always been. So it's got to be this way. Maybe we don't have to. Again, that's something I'd be along for the ride and would have to just.
No, I agree with you. I definitely think if you have an Infinity War, you need an endgame, right? I definitely think you need that. I think that's a better told story, right? Like, what is the last pay-per-view of the year? It's not Clash of Champions.
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I can't remember.
We get so many name changes now.
True. That doesn't even really matter anymore.
Well, sometimes there is. Sometimes they do the day one thing. I really don't know it.
Day one, that wasn't even on day one. That was like a few days into the new year. But
yeah. Like, I'm not even sure if they've announced the complete full schedule.
No, but we do know that Cena has like either 22 or 21 dates left, right? So what if Cena's last date, whatever date that is, we know that it's going to be within the calendar year of 2025, right? So what if Cena carries that title? And like we've been discussing, and listen, I said it, Skeener, but listen, you were co-host here today. You get credit for this too. Like, what if Cena beats whoever he's challenging? I can't imagine it's anybody other than Cody, right? And he beats Cody. WWE has already shown us that they're willing to let Cody lose the big match to tell the bigger story next time, right? They did it at 39 and then they paid it off at 40. So let Cody come up and let him lose. And like you said, let Cena leave and he's got to sell it, right? Like, he's not back until maybe, I don't know, a few weeks before Mania. Now you can tell a story around what maybe WWE may be trying to spin up, as a ultimate resolution for the story, right? And then have some way to bring Cena back, right? Maybe The Rock has something to do with it, where Cena's gone, right? And maybe you spin an angle where the WWE is in total freaking turmoil, right? What if Seth wins the World Heavyweight Championship and this new regime he's got with Paul and Braun has been growing, right? And now Seth, the guy who was railing against the machine, right, is now building his own regime and WWE is turning into like a terror dome, right? And The Rock has to be the one to fix this. So he forces Cena to come back somehow, right? And then at 42, Cena gets dethroned, right? And the title comes back. I have no idea. This is all speculation, the speculation station, and I don't know where the attendant is. But I like the idea of them swinging for the fences and taking some real chances. And that writer's room has at least a few people in it that I believe used to work for Disney and Marvel.
And you know what? That's a good parallel. The Marvel parallel was really good by you because this works. This would work. It would be one of the. I can't think of a more ambitious story given what company is, what stage this would be told on to ever have been told in professional wrestling. It would be a risk. If you have a plan and you're solid with it and you believe it, I'd say go for it.
We will have to wait and see, man.
That would, again, I go back, that would be bold to commit to. And I only say that because unlike a movie where you can, for the most part, know it's going to be made, wrestling, sometimes you can't prepare for injuries, for other things that happen. Man, can you take that risk and then that story gets knocked off and needs a pivot? How do you pivot from that one? If something unfortunate were to happen, someone can't make a date, something like that. Wouldn't want to be in that chair. I
think you're right. I think you'd have to. I think it would present a very unique challenge that honestly, if there was any other medium, I think you would have a particular way out, right? You can always write a movie with certain types of actors or special effects or stunt people if someone gets hurt, etc., right? And you can't necessarily do that with WWE. But like we were stating earlier, WWE is in a very unique position in the way that they tell their stories, right? And the ability to pivot, the ability to change direction while still keeping focus on what it is that they're intending to do and the willingness for fans like you and I to receive the product while simultaneously suspending our disbelief, right? How many times did titles go away and then get reintroduced later on for no apparent reason? I thought when Roman unified the Smackdown and the Raw main titles, right? And it was the undisputed universal, that long name, right? I thought we were done with the two top tier titles. And then less than a year later, they bring back another top tier title. You know what I mean?
Kind of leads into that's why it doesn't feel like the top tier title.
True.
Because we know it's not. That's again, I don't need to retread. That's the risk you'd take if you pull this, if you pull the trigger on what would be this fantastic idea, is you gotta ride with just a title that feels less for a while, and you've got to be okay with the unrest that would create in fans, because again, back to the Marvel analogy, we knew more movies were probably coming.
True.
How much can you sell that there's no more John Cena coming? Like this frankly crappy taste that's in your mouth, it's not going away.
Yeah.
And then you hopefully would get to the moment where, yeah, okay, we're taking it. We're going to give you the payoff here. But I got almost goosebumps thinking about an idea that ambitious. That would be quite something.
Brother, if we were in the writer's room, this would either be an incredible product or it'd be in the toilet already.
You'd be the guy in the meme, and you'd be maybe going out the window. I don't know. Might be. But listen, man, we're going to wrap this up. This has been fun, man. Thank you for joining me in this space. I am very, very happy that you were able to do this with me, man. Hey, anytime. Again, really appreciate it. Appreciate thinking of me. Love going on here and talking. I know we didn't get much of any sort of agenda covered, but I've really enjoyed it, man.
Dude, I told you that the agenda is it's loose, right? That we were going to fall into a pocket of what it is that we wanted to talk about, and we were just going to go there. I'm going to be honest with you, Skeen. This was exactly what I wanted it to be. Exactly what I wanted it to be. So,
I had a blast. Again, anytime, brother. Anytime, I'll pick up the phone. I'll make the shot. I'll make the town. I'll do it again.
Well, good. Let's do it again. And listen, everyone, if you all enjoyed this episode with my homeboy, Skeen, let me know. Hit me up at the Lariat Lounge at gmail.com. Let me know what you thought about the episode. Let me know what you thought about the banter, because this is a new podcast and we're building this together. So I want to know what you think works, what you think does not work. Let me know. Also, let me know about some of the ideas that we threw out here today. Not just the stuff with the product that we're talking about, right? Because that's stuff that's working now. But what do you think about some of the other ideas? This is what we do here in the Lariat Lounge. We think deeply on the things that matter to us, because stories matter, because characters matter. Whether they make it to the screen or not, sometimes it's irrelevant. This is what wrestling fans do, because we love the product. So I hope to catch you guys here again soon. This is the Lariat Lounge. Please watch yourself on the way out.